We're recording. Greetings again, ladies and gentlemen, from beautiful downtown Shenyang. And I am seated here by the river again. Right there. See that wonderful banner over there? That makes me laugh. It says danger is everywhere, and the bell of safety rings long. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I think it means don't swim, so I won't. Not today anyway. Not here. There's too much algae in this water. I don't know. I don't know who's watching this. Probably nobody. But I don't know. I'm having this issue this last couple of years. While I get this idea in my head, like you should really record that. Obsessed over it, and like, oh, you could say this and you could say that, and oh my goodness, and you get all excited, and then I never ended up not doing it. Like, don't do that. You're gonna alienate people. You're gonna make people mad, and then I feel very, very bad about myself for having not done it. So I'm just gonna say it. So when I get these things, like, you should really say that, I'm just gonna come out and I'm gonna record it, and whatever happens, right? Anyway, I wanted to get some thoughts about the war. On if what I think isn't not a fortune teller or anything. If what I think is about to happen is going to happen, I don't know. It would satisfy me to have something like on record that says I was right about a couple things. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so it's not to bury the lead. And for those of you who do not like sensitive topics, so you can click off now without being bored with a whole lot of introduction. I'll just tell you what I think. I was talking to Todd about this. Todd, my friend Todd from the internet. I was talking to Todd about this the other day. I was like, I think that most of the world has come to the conclusion of what we've always thought, that Israel is a tremendous liability, right? And I guess there's more reactionary ways to put that, but that's the kind of the framing I would expect to come out of like an official government document. They're just a liability, economically, geopolitically. They're a liability. They don't really help us very much, and they're just a tremendous burden. And I think that currently this administration, I guess I can get into reasons why. I mean, I know this completely flies in the face of like all the theories of like, you know, for reasons like everybody has a good reason for wanting to attach everything to Trump personally, but I don't think Trump is really that significant in all this. I think he's a front guy, and I think he's good at directing people's attention, and that's what he's for. But I don't think he's the main policymaker. I don't think he's like the core of the thing. I think the core of the thing seems to be, and I get this from, watch Tucker Carlson's show and watch his lesser guests, right? The less famous people, like when he has somebody on like John Kiriakou or that other guy who's in the Justice Department that nobody's ever heard of, who don't do other podcasts. These are insider guys, right? These are the guys who actually make up the thing. And also all the guys on all the guests on Napolitano's show, who, I guess I can get to that in a minute, who in the first Trump administration, all these guys had cabinet positions, and in this administration they appear not to have cabinet positions. But I'm wondering if that's actually, you know, because I watched the show. I don't really agree with what they say very much anymore, but I watched the show because their OPSEC is terrible and they keep dropping all these clues as to what's going on. And the even better for that is Mike Benz. You don't know who that is. Like Mike Benz, of course you know. He was on Rogan twice. He was on Tucker several times. He's got a direct pipeline to like the biggest shows in the world. And he has there's no cover story for who Mike Benz is. Like he's He's my favorite kind of person in the world. He's a mentat. He's incapable of telling a lie. He loves telling the truth. He's very excited to tell you the truth, right? And he's just like, brain is like an encyclopedia. Like people like that, like there's no advantage to that kind of person to be a liar, right? To deceive yourself or deceive anybody else, because, you know, your job is data crunching. Right? Anybody who's like a programmer, or like an engineer, or like anybody whose job, like where their livelihood depends on accuracy. Right? Those also, you don't put those guys in the front, right? You want people who are good at bullshitting. You want those guys in the front line. You don't want somebody like Mike Benz in the front line, because he will leak stuff constantly, and he does. Like for example, I've interacted with him a couple times. I made him mad, really mad, like about a month ago. That's not important. This guy asked him, so like the plan is to use like psyops against the deep state, or to how do you phrase it? To use deep state tactics against the deep state. And Mike Benz quote tweets him and says, "That's the idea." Same. I think that's pretty much what's going on. That they're using that. Anyway, back to where was I? Yeah, I think the administration is mainly made up of Desert Storm guys, right? People who were in the Marines, who were manipulated into war by this government, and who were themselves injured, or who had, like, you know, people die, and who experienced tremendous loss, you know, for no great advantage for the United States. And aside from like the frontline guys, this seems to be what most of the I should explain why I think that. Okay, so I guess you go far back, but I don't want to go that far back. Let's go back to like 2017. So what's the guy's name? Seymour Hersh. Good old Seymour Hersh, right? Broke the Abu Ghraib story, broke the My Lai story. Gold standard journalist as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely unimpeachable. He writes this article, and I feel like called Military to Military. And it did not get published in anything major. Nobody would publish it, I'm sure. They got published in the London Review of Books, lrb.com, I think. And you can look it up now. It's called Military to Military by Seymour Hersh in London Review of Books. And I push this in front of every single person that I know over and over and over. Like, read this. You have to read this. This is the key to the whole thing. This is it's even more like earth-shaking, in my opinion, than the Abu Ghraib scandal, because what it says basically is that what military to military means that one provision of the Patriot Act, like right after 9/11, because there were people saying, you know, why didn't we know this sooner? You know, why weren't we given advance notice? And it's, oh, well, they gave these, like, you know, bullshit excuses. Oh, bureaucracy is so slow, and, you know, people have to sleep in on Sundays and whatever. And so we couldn't get you the, you know, important. So there was a provision put into the Patriot Act that allowed the militaries to give each other information directly. Right, so the United States military has direct contact with the German military, which has direct contact with all the European militaries, and with the Russian military, etc., etc. Creating what he says kind of like a diplomatic back channel that does not go through the State Department, and he says that on this back channel, the militaries of the world started exchanging classified information, which is the thing's function, like information, you know, on terrorist threats. And they, I guess, I'm gonna have to touch on Q at some point. I'm not a Q guy, please don't. So I'm certainly not one of the crazy Q guys. We're gonna have to touch on it at some point, because there was a video came out. It got scrubbed from YouTube almost immediately, but you can find it other places. I think you can find it on BitChute.com, called Q: The Plan to Save the World. And it went up to 1.2 or 1.3 million views on YouTube before it got scrubbed. They wiped it out. It basically says the same thing. The they connect it more to the NSA than to the military in that video, but they basically say that the same thing. The Patriot Act gave the militaries these new surveillance tools, and we use the surveillance tools to figure out who the actual criminals are, right? And back to the article, the military to military, he says that in Trump's first term, right, one of the first things he does is crush the hell out of ISIS, right? ISIS, as we know, is an intelligence asset of the United States and Israel and the Gulf states. And what he says was that a faction within the United States gave intel on ISIS movements to Germany, who then transmitted it to Russia, and Russia, ended ISIS, right, with the assistance of this faction in the United States, right? And the video, the Q, the plan to save the world, which by the way, this video comes out before CNN gets a hold of it, and you get the pre-bunking, right? Because Q, whatever you think of it, whatever you think, whether you think it's a psyop or whatever, it was pre-bunked by CNN and the Western media, right? And you can by which I mean they were running counter stories against Q and their crazy supporters, their crazy and dangerous supporters, before most people knew what it was, right? And the television media is not hip to what's going on 4chan. I'm sure they weren't watching. I'm sure it wasn't one of 100 stories they were doing, these interesting things that is happening on 4chan. They pre-bunked it because it's real. It's a real thing, or they thought it was, right? It was important enough to them that they get ahead of this story, and you can tell immediately if somebody got their information on that from the media or if they got it from directly from the source, because they'll call it QAnon, right? There was never a QAnon. It was a word that the media made up, wet market, or whatever. There never was a QAnon. Nobody ever used that word. The posters, the person on 4chan who signs his name, he signs his name Q, right? And then people who are on 4chan are sometimes called Anons. So there is Q and there are Anons, but there never was a QAnon. So if you hear somebody use that word QAnon, maybe a little bit propagandized, a little bit. What was the point I was making? Right, in the YouTube video made by, you're gonna call me crazy, so I'm gonna leave that part out. I brought it up, I may as well do it. I don't know, this is kind of like my job, aesthetics. I'm a designer, so there is another. Okay, you may have heard of Colonel McGregor. Of course you've heard of Colonel McGregor. He was in the first Trump administration as a military advisor. I'm not exactly sure what his position was in the administration exactly, other than advisor. But he recently launched this app called Republic, which is kind of a cool social media app where you can do local politics on it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere because you have to pay to get on, and it's hard enough to get like critical mass for an app, even when it's free. Like, poor Threads, what's going on over there? Or G Plus. How's it going over on G Plus? Google Plus. But he has an intro video for Republic explaining how cool it is, and I swear to God, the style and the narrator are exactly the style is very similar, but the narrator is the very same narrator as Q: The Plan to Save the World. So there's that out there. Call me crazy if you want. It's just, I don't know. It's something I noticed. Maybe I'm wrong. Where was I? Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. And basically, it's saying in the Q: The Plan to Save the World video that They are military, they are patriots, you know, and what we can glean from that is that that's what they believe about themselves, not necessarily. I don't necessarily, like, the difference between me and like the Q guys is that they take like the Q writings as holy writ, and they do all kinds of numerology with like the post dates and the post numbers, and it can predict the future, and they're absolutely good guys, they're patriots, and they're absolutely in control, and they're infallible. And I don't necessarily take that position. Best you can say is that they certainly believe they're the good guys, and I have no reason to believe that they're not the good guys. But let's stick to what we can prove, right? They are a different faction, right? Call it the white hat deep state, if you like. Okay, and well, more corroboration for that when on Joe Rogan Experience episode 911, when Alex Jones comes on. Was this the one where they had just been fighting? I think it was. They were just making up. They had been fighting, and they were now making up. And so, Joe asked him, "Hey, like Alex, like tell us what's really going on." And just like this open-ended question, tell us what's really going on in the deep state. And Alex like launches into this thing. Like the part you saw is the part about the interdimensional vampires. But before that, he says like it's a faction, you know, within the government of patriots, military guys, and intelligence guys, and Trump is their front guy, right? So Trump is not his movement. He's not the core of the movement. He's not making decisions for the movement. He's just the front. He's the face of the movement, and the movement is these military guys. And so that's how I interpret it, and that's what I see. Another thing that is that gets on my nerves is that China and Russia, like the countries with the greatest stake in overturning, like the what do you call it, the new world order, globalism, don't seem to be doing anything, and I don't know if I find that plausible. Like Putin especially, who used to be head of the KGB, you know, you're telling me that like he's not doing any spy stuff at all, and the Chinese were great at spy stuff, we're not doing any spy stuff at all. I don't find that plausible. And another thing, I don't know. I know there's. I guess they've mostly shut up now, but there used to be like a whole lot of threads going on X from like Groyper accounts, how like, you know, the Jews control China, right? And to prove this, they have Mao Zedong like posing with like 3 men who are indeed Jewish. And like this proves everything. They're under complete control. The problem is that well, those 3 men they're not in the CCP. They don't control. They're translators. That's all they are. They're communist Jews who translated Mao's memoirs into English and I think German, and that's what they are. Which brings me to another tangent, which I'm just going to say. There is a series of books. It was started out as 1 book, but the book was so popular, it has now become 5 books. And maybe there's more on the way, I don't know, in China, that's called Currency Wars. Hobi Zhanzheng. I've posted about this a couple times. You probably like your eyes glazed over, like, what the hell is this? Why are you talking to me? I don't care about, like, you know, moon language things. But the first Currency Wars is what you might call a radical conspiracy theory. It's basically the history of global capital in the West, the British monarchy, and the Rothschilds, right? It's crazy to me how like the things that you're not supposed to believe, they just come right and tell you like the things you aren't supposed to believe. These are the crazy things. Don't believe these things. Not the Rothschilds, not the Queen, not the. But if you think I'm nuts, I encourage you to watch the Oversimplified, the cartoon history. Highly recommended, great show, about the Napoleonic Wars, right? And the first half is like the rise of Napoleon, like how he keeps winning the wars. And I think the second half is the fall of Napoleon. And he gets right up to the line, but he doesn't tell you the last thing. After the War of the Fourth Coalition, right? Napoleon like puts together this what do you call it? The Continental something, I forgot. That basically locked Britain out of European trade, because Britain was like the primary agitator, and everybody else had been either conquered by Napoleon or was at peace with Napoleon. And it says, well, how did they do that? The Britain like organized the War of the Fifth Coalition by taking out massive loans. And it shows like a cartoon of England taking massive loans. What they don't tell you is who they took the massive loans from. And they took the massive loans from the Rothschild family. And from this point forward, that basically puts, the Rothschild bank in charge of England. Where am I going with this? I'm not sure. Oh, right, the book. Anyway, whether you believe that or not is immaterial. My point is that it is a policy-making book in China. I got my copy from a kiosk that sells cigarettes, right? Which only carries it would be like if a book on, as if it was the Da Vinci Code or something. It's that commonplace, and it's so popular that it's spun off. Like I said, 4 sequels. I have the first 2. The first one is about the Rothschild family and the Napoleonic Wars and how this all came to be, and the second one is about Nazi Germany and the Havre Agreement, stuff that I did not know at the time, but in the intervening years on X and other places have been, turns out it's entirely true. I lost my train of thought. I knew this was going to happen. What was I talking about? Oh, right, the war. Right. Anyway, I think that this has been a game against the Israelis the entire time. And I know people only remember the past 2 weeks of headlines that they've seen. Like, how could that possibly be true? He wears the hat, he kisses the wall, he pulls out the chair, for goodness sake. Did you not see him pull out the chair? What a humiliation for the United States. He goes and he attends the funeral of that rabbi who wants, to kill all the humans. How could you possibly? Obviously that's, those are the headlines. That's what he showed you, right? That's what he showed you. So that's what somebody wants you to think that, right? That's out in front. That's front facing, right? He wants you or whoever to believe that he is Israel's best friend, okay? If that were actually true, it would be damaging to his base, and he would, like every other president who has come before, keep it quiet. Why in the world would you want to advertise to the world that you were apparently under the control of this foreign country? I guess we can get, I won't do that today because my voice is already starting to go. And that's a whole other topic, like the way the Trump admin, possibly not him in specifically, but the way his administration has done propaganda, which I think is like insanely brilliant. Okay, number one, the purpose is to outrage you against Trump. You're very mad at Trump, but also you're very angry at Israel in a way that you never have been before, right? And he keeps doing these, and not just him, it's Elon and it's him, and it's like right under your nose, and you are aware of AIPAC and Israeli influence and all these things like you never have been before. And Israel's popularity continues to decline. Like, okay, like suppose in 2016 he comes out right out and says, hey, guess what, America? It's Israel. It's always been Israel. Israel is our enemy. We're going to go invade them now. Everybody would reject that. Even I, who, even I, in 2016, I would have rejected that. I think that is too extreme. You are crazy. You are off your rocker. You are, and he wouldn't get elected. He definitely wouldn't get reelected. Not even the most radical, like, right wingers, like, or even the most radical left wingers, nobody would have supported that against Israel. But now, see how things have changed. See how things have changed. Is that an accident? Are we waking up on our own? Is it, or are we getting a little bit of help? A little bit of help, right? Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It seems to me that I'm just going to call them the Q people, because you can substitute whatever you want. The white hat deep state, the millennials, the Gulf War veterans. It seems to be that they went into this like perhaps rather naively. It's like, we're just going to tell the American people the truth. We're going to give the American people the truth. This is a democracy. They're mature adults. They can handle this. And that will, when we reveal the truth to them, then everything will be all right. And I think they've realized over time that that's not true. Because like what the Snowden memos came out in, what was it, 2016? I think 2016, yeah. And well, nobody read them. There was a big scandal about Snowden, right? But nobody went and actually went through the files. And I know that because well, people are upset about, Palantir. I'm not a fan of Palantir, but do you not know that this system has existed for decades already? It's called PRISM. It was in the Snowden memos, PRISM. They've got backdoors into all your phones, and if you have Android, Google's on board, Apple's on board, Microsoft, Yahoo, and one other whose name I can't remember. But they are all backdoored into your devices, into your computers, and they're passing all your information to a database at the NSA. And that was in the Snowden memo. But nobody read the Snowden memo. And also the DNC email leaks. There was a bit of a scandal over Julian Assange personally, because people are very much invested in personal scandal, but nobody read the documents. Okay, so that's 2016, and in 2017 you get this guy pop up on 4chan by the name of Q, and what does he do? Well, he doesn't do what people, he doesn't like spread. What do people say that Q does? Like say crazy things? But no, not really. The Q account asks leading questions. If this happened, what would be the likely, consequence? Where would you look? Where would you start looking? If this, then why not that? And gets you to come to the answers yourself, right? And also, he kind of pointed at the Snowden files and the DNC email leaks, said, look for this, look for that. And people did look, and they found it. And that is how, QAnon gets associated with Pizzagate, even though, Pizzagate is never, you just go look through the Snowden emails, look through the DNC emails, and look for this, look for that. You'll come to the right conclusion. You're smart people. We'll figure this out. Okay? And so people do, and there's like a mini scandal, which was immediately crushed, by the MSM. Pizzagate, QAnon, 4D chess, you Q-tards, so dangerous to democracy. Right, and it got shot down immediately. So that didn't work either. Okay, so plan C. We got to do it the way the mass media does it. They are effective. We have not been effective. This is my headcanon that they had sat down, had a meeting like, this is not being effective, guys. We're getting crushed. We need a major media outlet and we need a bunch of people to populate that forum we need to replace the media. and I think they brought Musk on board. I think X has been that. I think without that, and ever since then, okay, like you can draw your own conclusions from that, but since then, we have had coverage of war the likes of what we have never had before. Like, I'm 52 years old. I've seen a lot of wars. Did you see a single dead Iraqi? Apparently, we killed anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million people in Iraq. A single one. And you can say, well, technology. Hey, the internet existed back in 2003. Digital cameras existed in 2003. Broadband existed in 2003. Like, they could have done that, but they didn't. Okay? If you were anywhere near X, you have been fed by some means a constant stream of atrocities out of Gaza, and that has dragged Israel down. Like, they dragged him from like 80% approval to like, I think it's down below 10 now. If Charlie Kirk's recent poll is an indication of the public mood, I think he said his poll said 15% was in support of war with Iran. Of course, that's mixing up, support of Israel with like support of war, which is not necessarily the same thing. But I'd say it's easily below 50%. I don't think that's my point is I don't think that's an accident. I think we're being helped. I believe that a lot of influencers, good guys, right? Good guys, honest people, have been empowered and amplified to bring this message to us. And you can draw your own conclusions about who those people are. I think we probably agree, though. Anyway, my point in all this is that, I think the noose is drawing close around Israel. I think we got them into a quagmire. I think that, okay, I'm not necessarily saying that we're behind Gaza, although who knows, right? Somebody. We have taken maximum advantage of the situation and driven Israel's credibility into the dirt. And I think once it gets low enough, I think it is safe to withdraw. And I think that's what's going to happen. We're not going to join the war. I think the front-facing part of the administration convinced Israel we were their best friends and that we would support them in this war. I believe they launched this war with the full belief that we would support them, and I think we're not gonna. I think they're gonna go right up against the entire BRICS alliance, and I think they're gonna get smashed. Maybe it may not. I don't know what's gonna happen to them. I don't think anybody's interested in actually conquering the place, but I think they will be taken down a peg or two or three, and I think most importantly that they'll become a pariah inside the United States as well. And in this next upcoming election, here's my other conspiracy theory, that the Trump-Elon thing, the fight that actually wasn't a fight because they didn't actually say anything mean about each other. Isn't it hilarious when friends pretend fight? Or even like today, like Trump and Tucker Carlson, like you didn't even exchange any barbs or insults. You're just like, I'm mad at you and I'm mad at you and oh. Honest people are terrible at lying. Where was I going? I lost my train of thought again. This is happening a lot recently. Sent the thing, and then. All right. We'll make. Right. Elon. Yes. It got very little notice, but Elon Musk started a political action committee, a PAC, America PAC, right? And he has the American account that broadcasts things for the America PAC. And why create a PAC? To compete with the existing PAC, the main PAC, AIPAC, right? You have created a PAC to compete with AIPAC, and Elon is going to go quietly do that. I think AIPAC is going to get shredded in the midterms. I think that's the plan. So, I don't think there's going to be World War III. I think Israel's going to have a very bad time. I'm positive we're not going to get into a war. I'm positive that we set this up. I'm positive we're letting Israel hang out to dry, and I'm positive that this was planned years in advance. Beyond that, who knows what might happen. Anyway, okay, I'm done talking. Oh my goodness, it's been 35 minutes. Bye.